For more on this, let's bring in Dr. Peter Chin Hong. He's a member of the California Monkeypox Scientific Advisory Committee. Thanks so much for joining us here. So, short of 300 cases or so where you are in San Francisco, why is that such a worry? Why is the city declaring a public health emergency now?
Well, there is a symbolic reason, Kim, and there's a pragmatic reason. The symbolic reason is that I think the city wants to really make a statement, raise awareness, but there's a really pragmatic reason, which is that there isn't enough money devoted to monkeypox to really control this outbreak. All the money that we have for emergency preparedness is wrapped up in COVID dollars. So to use that money, declaring a state of emergency allows that flexibility.
Yeah, they want to pivot some of that COVID money to fight this. Now, part of the problem, of course, is the lack of testing. I want to know, how bad can this get? And is there a possibility that we can get rid of monkeypox, or do you think it's here to stay now?
Well, time is ticking, and now is the moment. We may lose this moment before it either spills over to the general population, infects animals in North America, and then it may become endemic, which is something nobody really wants.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is, aside from the lack of testing, there's also frustration growing about the access to the vaccine. I mean, we reported on folks who took, 5 hours filling out forms, standing in line to get the shot. Why is it taking so long? I mean, you thought after COVID, shouldn't we have better muscle memory to react to a potential pandemic like this?
Well, there's a little bit of a slowness in terms of, even simple things like reserving the second dose before prioritizing first doses for as many people as possible. The UK did it, New York did it, San Francisco followed very quickly. And at the end of the day, there were 800,000 doses awaiting FDA inspection of the facility in Denmark. And that was a little frustrating because it was there. It's like dangling a golden apple in front of you and you can't really get it.
So San Francisco is going to prioritize vaccines for men and trans people who have sex with men, which is the population right now that seems most likely to get infected, looking at the cases. There's debate around the messaging around this. I mean, some people are saying, listen, we need to do more to draw attention to this link with male-on-male sex to warn these vulnerable populations. Other people say, well, anyone can get infected and we're just stigmatizing them. So where do you fall in that debate?
Well, I think, Kim, we have to be laser focused on where the disease is right now, which is in gay and bisexual men and trans men as well. I think that the messaging for the general population is one, not of alarm, but awareness. And you're right, stigma is something that we are constantly worried about. We've seen it during HIV. Just yesterday, somebody came to ask me about treatment for monkeypox with T-pox because she had hugged a gay man. And I think that message is really worrisome for me and a harbinger of what might be coming in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a tough balancing act there. Before we came on, we played a clip there from San Francisco's mayor. She's joined with others who are criticizing and calling out the federal response. What more should they be doing here?
Well, I think there's two things that I hope will result. First of all, I'm really proud to be a resident of San Francisco. We were the first to do shelter in place, and I think this is a very prescient move. So the two things are really hopefully a domino effect to other jurisdictions and hopefully percolating to the national level. And that will result in resources, but more than that, coordination. Again, we saw in COVID that we were different muscles beating at different times instead of one coordinated muscle. Even something as elementary as reporting cases is not really done consistently from state to state right now.
And if you have any advice there for folks who are listening to this and might sort of be worried, should I get tested, that sort of thing? I mean, what's your message out there?
I think we aren't using enough testing. When CNN did an investigation a couple of days ago, they found that even though we have 5 commercial labs set up and running, able to do tens of thousands of tests a week, there are very, very few tests done, less than 100 actually, in some of the major labs. So I think low threshold to test, not to panic, and to think about a hierarchy of risk. At the end of the day, monkeypox is really trying to find an animal. It's very, very difficult to get as a human. So skin to skin is major, maybe sexual contact as well, though not exclusive. But going to a thrift store, going to the gym, going to the yoga studio is not really going to be very, very high risk at all.
All right, great advice. Really appreciate getting your expertise on this developing issue. Peter Chin Hong, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Kim.